You might be surprised how many grips I tried in the past, and from one degree, sometimes way worn out, other times I just didn't like how it feels and had to replace them. In other times, hands started to become numb, so there are different reasons how and why you have to replace them. But finally, I found ones which works very well, and even though they have some flaws on their own, they are kind of the best ones. To give you a bit of an example, before I showcase you them, is Synchros grips, which are foam without lock on sides, are very much similar in terms of materials used. So there's some not too much slippery inside piece, which you can't remove easily, so you have to cut them off when they breaks down. This one was already peeled on a side, so before I had the replacement, I kind of used the tape to make sure it stays in place. But basically these ones are probably the second choice from the ones which I'm going to show you. It's lightweight, it's nice in terms of the feeling, yet the main thing which comes about the foam grips is that they worn out easily, especially if you fall. So if you fall and scratch it aside, or you uncarefully put it down on the ground, you can very easily cut them from a side, and then it just peels out. That's something to keep in mind when you use slide-on grips without lock-on handles aside. These ones are currently installed on my girlfriend's bike, and it's pros. I can't recommend them because these are slide-on, and normally in order for them to work properly, they have to have non-slippery inside material, which is not when it comes to pro grips. There are no rubber feeling inside of those grips, and they tend to slide out a bit. These I also used on Spark for some time, but whenever I got a chance to order my favorites, I always do so. So having some spares when your normal grips broke down is good, because then you can just use them until proper arrives. So slide-on grips are interesting, and for that reason and for the name, purchased those but never got to use them, because they recommend to glue them on the handlebars. I definitely don't want to glue something on the handlebars and then have a hard time cleaning it, so these are kind of something which I don't use, and they just waits for their time when I have no other grips at all. But we can have a look how ridiculously weight this introduces. Can it be? Yes, apparently it is. So let's try it this way. 19 grams for the grips. Yeah, I wonder how they feels and how long they can last, but without that rubber material inside, it's just kind of useless thing in my opinion. Apart from the slide-on ones, there are lock-on ones as well, and I had those for a while because on Scott scale, then you have the lockout remote. It kind of has to slide on some sort of plastic like this. For that reason, I used to use those, but actually they are quite heavy on their own. And because I figured out how I could install that lockout lever without those, from that point I never used those. The only good reason about those is that they are firm, they are not going to rotate on your handlebars. From that sense it's great, but you can see that they comes at the cost of 116 grams, and it's not even with the end plugs, so I don't have second end plug, but basically it's more than 120 grams just for the grips. Keep that in mind when you are choosing the grips, maybe it will be beneficial. And I'm not even saying that those are very comfy, they are okay. So if you are very conscious about the weight, I would suggest to maybe try to use slide-ons rather than lock-ons. And that's how we come to my favorite ones, which tends to have this sort of issue. No, it's not an issue, but because it peels off very easily. In order to make that quick fix, I usually just apply the tape until the time comes and I replace them. So in order to remove them, you have to cut it, and they comes off really easily once you make that cut. But you can see here that even after I made significant damage on the handle, it still doesn't move out easily. So that's how good SE grips are. Even that small piece, which was few centimeters long, managed to hold firmly. So that's the reason why I go with SE grips as much as I can, simply because they have that rubber inside and it actually holds. Forget about your grips turning around when you hold it tightly, so they are not going to slip inside your palm, and they just works brilliantly. Well, except the fact that they tend to do this type of thing. But actually it could be probably avoided. You can see that there's some cutout as well. And yeah, because I'm replacing one, I always replace both of them. You could potentially try to avoid happening of those cuts by making sure that the actual grip comes a bit more inwards to the handlebar itself. Oh shoot. So that's kind of one way how you could make sure that it does not peel off that easily. So there will definitely be some sort of dirt here. Whenever I change the grips, I make sure to also remove these end plugs. They worn out as well, and when you're going to put the new ones, you don't want them to scratch the inside of the handle. Definitely I'm not going to apply the new one just yet, because you have to use a lot of force to apply this, and normally I use some sort of brake cleaner or alcohol which evaporates easily. Put a lot of it inside the grip, make sure to lubricate the grip as well with the same alcoholic thing, and then you just slide it on. But before that happens, make sure to install this. And actually, you still don't know what these ones are. My preference is XC grips, XC Fit one. They are some sort of ergonomic one because they have a different placement for your palm. So you can see that here it's a bit thinner, here is thicker, and basically because I have huge palms, it's just more comfy that way. Personally, if I use the grips which are equal in whole length of a grip, I tend to feel numbness in my palms, so for that reason I chosen and always choose something which has different width in the grip. Yeah, that's a lot of information, but who knows, maybe it will be useful. And I can't say enough how great is that they decided to cut those, because usually they come all rounded and then it's very hard to insert those in the tube. So yeah, cutting those by default into triangular shape is a good idea. Now about the weight, it says 65 grams, so we can add those 6 grams, and then those 67. Yeah, 2 grams more, who knows where it came from. But in general, these are very great grips to be inserted on your handlebars. Last but not least, here is the whole procedure how you do it. You use alcohol on the bar, then you use end plugs, insert it to the handlebar, then use alcohol inside and on the bar yet again, and make sure it's wet. And as long as it's wet, it will slide easily.